Nuggets of Faith family. I'm back again here, and I am so delighted to be back again and to just share an inspiration with all of you. This will benefit somebody or everybody who hears what I'm about to say. It is just something that I was meditating upon, especially yesterday, and this message has been coming on over and over and over again, and it has been ministering to me why I had to go through some things. So I'm speaking to somebody that believes in God, serves God faithfully. You give your tithes, you are good to people, but you know what? Something just struck you, and it seems like a calamity in your family. It seems like a calamity in your life, and you're like, God, why did this happen? So I remember when I was a little girl, there's a time that things just started going south in our family, really. We used to be well off, and then suddenly things just started going south. And as a small girl, in my little mind, I was trying to figure out what's going on. But then the devil tries to form strongholds in our minds when we are very young. And sometimes if the Lord does not deliver us, that's why we are told, be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. Your mind has to be renewed so that some strongholds can break down. So when I was that small, I had a relative saying, and they had told a relative, and now it had become something that was spreading in the family. They are going through what they're going through because God is punishing them. So when I heard these words, I was like, you mean God hates us? And I was a small girl. And these are Christians, and they should be portraying Christ. And that's why it's very important. If you call yourself as a Christian, make sure you're molding the Christ of the image of Christ, even in front of children, that they will know you're not going through what you're going through because God hates you. Because at that tender age, that's what I took in. I knew, we are going through this because God hates us. Okay, we might have been going through that because of the choices maybe somebody made in the family. But it did not mean that God hates us, really. And it became a narrative, and it seemed like this person was rejoicing. God is punishing them. They're going through what they're going through because God is punishing them. And that stronghold took time for God to break it down from my mind. And I was like, no, because it was actually blocking the reality of the love of God to reach me and for me to understand how God operates. Because really, every time you go through challenges, does it mean God hates you? No. In fact, there are challenges that prove that God loves you. Because I take like Abraham. We were talking with a friend yesterday on WhatsApp, and she brought up the story of Abraham and when he had to sacrifice his only son when God was testing him, and he obeyed. I looked at it in another way, and I was like, what if also God was trying to, bring a renewal in Abraham's mind, because he came from a background of pagan worship, and they would sacrifice children, and they would sacrifice, babies and all that. Just go read where Abraham came from. His background actually had witchcraft. So I was looking at it and I'm like, God was actually also, other than testing his faith, I think God was also trying to undo that pagan kind of worship in his mind, that what? I am the sacrifice. You do not need to do this. And so you see that stronghold was undone in Abraham's mind as his faith was being tested and love towards God. So not all the time you're going through testing is that God loves you. God hates you. No, God loves you. And there are trials that come to refine us, to make us better people, because God sees the kind of capacity that you need to do what you need to do. So he sees your strength is little. He'll allow a test to come through. So I remember way years later when I heard about a sermon of God's love, and yet again I heard again that sermon through a different servant of God, Apostle Kimani, and he preached about the love of God, the revelation of the love of God in the month of December. And it just proved to me that God allows us to go through some things because he loves us. He's actually saving us from us. He wants us to build capacity for the future. So it's not that any rough patch you go through that God hates you. God loves you. It's just asking God, what's the purpose of this trial? Because with time, God has shown why we had to go through what we went through. God bless and be inspired.